and Mrs. Paz Eugelia Dipsito, Head Teacher of Science Department. To the participants of both the affirmative side and the negative side, our visitors, guests, and students who are here to witness this debate, good morning. Before we are going to start formally, I would like to call the different sides to please be respectful seats. The affirmative will be sitting here, while the negative side will be occupying this area. I also ask the timekeepers to please occupy their respectful seats. So to start with, I am going to read the debating rules, how both sides will be graded and how the winners will be declared. So you'll be graded based on levels of performance for the affirmative team, and the criteria are the following: organization and clarity, that's for number 1, which would refer to the main arguments and responses which are outlined in a clear and orderly way. Second, you'll be rated based on the use of your arguments. These are the reasons that you give to support the resolution. Third is the cross or the use of cross-examination and rebuttal, under which the identification of weakness in the negative and the positive team's arguments and ability to defend itself against attack. And the fourth one will be rated based on your presentation styles, the tone of your voice, clarity of your expression, precision of arguments, all contribute to keeping audience attention and persuading them of the team's case. So you'll be rated based on the descriptions that are given here, 4 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. So after this debate, all of these will be added together to get your total score, in which the winner will be chosen. Then the best speaker will also be chosen together with the best debater. So I am now going to give you the rules to be followed in conducting this debate. So the debate is between two sides, the affirmative and the negative. One side argues about the practicability, necessity, or beneficiality of the proposition, while the counterpart on the other side opposes these arguments. Each speaker is given 3 minutes to deliver their speech and 2 minutes to interpolate or cross-examine. The first speaker will talk in general, why and why not the practice of cloning be accepted or not. The second speakers will argue on the practicability and necessity of the proposition with focus on human cloning, while the third speakers will focus their arguments on the beneficiality aspect of human cloning. After the third speakers have finished with their arguments and interpolations, I will be summing up some of the important ideas that were shared and laid down by the 6 speakers. The 4 speakers will focus on the arguments about the practicability and necessity of plant cloning practices, while the 5th speakers will deal on its beneficiality. After the arguments of the 5 speakers, I will be summing up some points that they stressed in during their arguments. At this point in time, they will be given 5 minutes to sum up their points, in which after the given time, the 6th speaker will then deliver their rebuttal and final statements. So right now, an issue that has been making noise around the world and collecting many conflicting ideas and different views is cloning. Different sections of the society have opposing opinions regarding this scientific breakthrough. There are many angles to be considered when taking up this issue. For the purpose of presenting the scientific arguments, religion will not be included. Having said that, the proposition in today's debate, let it be resolved that cloning practices be accepted in the society. The first speaker on the affirmative side, Tensil Corinaodi, is now given 3 minutes to tell us the general view why cloning be accepted.
To our panel of judges, to our worthy opponents, and to the audience and to the colleague, good morning. We, in the affirmative side, agree that cloning be accepted in our society. To clone or not to clone? This is the question on the lips of our scientists and conservationists around the world. As researchers now have the ability to bring extinct species back from the dead, cloning for the extinction is based on a similar theory that humans can use it to return many of the species we have wiped out with our actions. Advocates of cloning extinct species argue that the extinction will bring the biodiversity back to our planet. And some conservationists argue that since we have the technology to do this, we actually have a duty to restore the extinct entities to the natural world. Cloning is commonly used to amplify DNA fragments containing whole genes. It is used in a wide array of biological experiments and the practical applications ranging from genetic fingerprinting to large-scale protein production. Cloning helps people in order to avoid diseases. Furthermore, it helps infertile men to have a baby. Cloning human beings can be very helpful, especially in the medical community. Cloning a person can help to get the cells needed to cure a cancer. There are 2 types of theoretical human cloning: therapeutic cloning and reproductive cloning. Therapeutic cloning would involve cloning cells from a human for use in medicine and transplants. Somatic cell nuclear transfer is an example of therapeutic cloning. Reproductive cloning would involve making an entire cloned human instead of just specific cells or tissues. Nowadays, cloned DNA is a key step for genetic engineering, gene studies, and other applications in plant research, both in discovery and applied settings. Plant biotechnology continues to create new opportunities in agriculture, environmental biology, chemical production, and medicine. The development of genetically modified crops with value traits like herbicide and pest resistance and drought and salt tolerance. With the help of cloning, we can make our world a better place to live. Thank you.
The first negative speaker, Joanna Maria Eliza, is now given 2 minutes to cross-examine the first speaker of the affirmative side.
The first speaker to stand up. Do you agree with us that human cloning is wrong?
No.
Do you think that cloning is easy?
Yes.
Are you sure that cloning is safe?
Yes.
Do you want to be cloned?
Yes.
The first negative speaker, Joanna Maria Eliza, will now argue why cloning in general should not be practiced and accepted.
To our honorable judges, Sir Moderator, the timekeeper, students, my colleagues, and to our worthy opponents, good morning. We, in the negative side, are not favored with cloning. Why? It's because the uniqueness of personhood will be messed with, since we are all created for a purpose. As a student, I don't see why we need to create more people when we can already. Also, clones would probably be discriminated as being non-human. It seems to me that it is a waste of time, money, and effort. Sure, cloning could possibly lead to cures of terrible diseases, but at the same time, it could go overboard very quickly. People could start abusing technology and it could be an absolute disaster. We're perfectly fine without it, thanks. And think about it, criminals could use it to get away with crimes and exploit human cloning for unethical business practices. Also, in plant cloning, it provides complete genetic uniformity. Clones can affect diseases to the original plant. Cloning could also cause a serious overpopulation crisis. Why human cloning when Earth is already filled? We don't need more humans when we can reproduce perfectly fine. As I have said, the uniqueness of personhood will be messed with. The American Medical Association holds 4 points of reasons why cloning should not take place. First, there are unknown physical harms introduced by cloning. Second, unknown psychosocial harms introduced by cloning, including violations of autonomy and privacy. Third, impacts on familial and societal relations. And fourth, potential effects on the human gene pool. One of the main goals of the government is to protect human life. Some people want the government to regulate cloning and not to allow it. Michigan government believes this and became the first government to place a ban on cloning. As mentioned before, the governor signed a law that prohibits engaging or attempting to engage in human cloning. A Michigan State Senator, Mr. Bennett, said, "This legislation boils down to one thing, prohibiting the creation of human life for scientific research. Human cloning is wrong. It will be 5 years from now and wrong 100 years from now." That would be all.
Benson, you are now given 2 minutes to cross-examine the opposition.
May I request the first speaker of the negative side to please stand up? Do you think people needing organ transplants can benefit from cloning?
No,
Do you think cloning extends lives?
no,
If someone in your family needs a transplant and he or she badly needs a donor, will you use cloned organs?
no,
Do you think cloning is bad?
yes,
Do you agree with me that Dolly the sheep is a successful clone comeback?
no,
Do you believe that cloning can make humanity extinct?
yes,
Do you disagree about extinct species being extinct?
pardon,
Do you disagree about extinct species being extinct?
no,
Do you want an endangered species being extinct?
yes.
Thank you.
The second speaker, please okay voice sir, will now tell us why it is practical and necessary to accept the practice of cloning.
To our panel of judges, to our worthy opponents, to my fellow classmates, to the timekeepers, and to the colleague, good morning. Human cloning includes the production of genetically identical organisms via somatic cell nuclear transfer. Somatic cell nuclear transfer refers to the process which the nucleus has been removed. It is hard to say what we can learn from cloning if cloning is not allowed. We possibly can learn more about self-differentiation. We can learn enough to produce human organs without having to produce human beings. We may develop technology to allow easier genetic testing and fixing problems such as spinal cord injuries, cancer, Tay-Sachs disease, and many more. It is practical to clone humans because there is always a high demand for organs. Some argue for the cloning of humans to create spare body parts. Human cloning may one day reverse heart attacks. Some scientists believe that by injecting cloned healthy heart cells into damaged heart tissue will lead to the healing of the heart. The possibilities are endless and may be left undiscovered if human cloning is banned. It is necessary because through cloning, research can progress. We can learn how to renew the activity of damaged cells by growing new cells and replacing them. We can create humans with identical genetic makeup to act as an organ donor for each other like bone marrow and kidney transplants. Last but not the least, we can study cell differentiation at the same time that cloning is studied and developed.
The second speaker of the negative side, We'll now cross-examine April. April, can I cross-examine the opposition?
I request the second speaker of the positive side to stand. Do you want the world to be overpopulated because of human cloning?
No.
If human clones have the same genes, can you picture the human race being wiped out by a single virus?
No.
Are you 100% sure that human cloning will be successful?
Yes.
If you are a human clone, do you want to live just to take off your body parts?
Yes.
Is it practical to spend millions for cloning?
Yes.
The second speaker of the negative side, April Joy Baliga, will now argue why human cloning practices are not practical and why they are not necessary.
To our honorable judges, Sir Moderator, timekeepers, my colleagues, and to our worthy opponents, good morning. I, the second speaker of the negative side, is not in favor of human cloning with these following reasons. First, human cloning is not necessary. Putting aside the various complications that would be caused by cloning humans, it is not necessary at all. Why go through the trouble of keeping humans in control when we don't desperately need to multiply our population? Seriously, we are suffering with overpopulation. The natural process of evolution will be halted, and we be rendered more susceptible to disease. That means one disease could devastate an entire population. One can easily picture the human race being wiped out by a single virus. If cloning is permitted, moral issues would come into a picture as well. It would be needed for human parts to say, clones would have a conscience and feelings too, just like their human counterpart. Wouldn't it be extremely cruel to take off their body parts one by one according to our needs? Imagine you being alive just for that purpose. There are tons of what ifs and buts on this issue, and the mere idea of it should be deserted. Second, human cloning is impractical. Human cloning can give rise to certain medical issues. An abnormal baby would be a nightmare come true. Many attempts at animal cloning produce disfigured monsters with severe abnormalities. So that would mean creating cloned embryos, implanting them, and destroying presumably those that look imperfect as they grow in the womb. However, some abnormalities may not appear till after birth. Dolly, the world's most famous sheep because she was cloned. Dolly died because of lung cancer and arthritis. Though it can be suggested that Dolly suffered death under quite common circumstances, some say otherwise. Dolly's life expectancy was predicted to be 11 to 12 years, but it died prematurely. It has been speculated that maybe the reason for this premature death that was Dolly had a genetic age of 6 years, as it almost impossible and impractical. Clones will always suffer from this anomaly. Therefore, the development of clone can prove to be very destructive, resulting in the death of many clones. Technology hasn't been developed to such extent that ensures successful conception of clones, and maybe it should be given a rest until death. Human cloning has only 5% success rates. Did you know that Dolly was discarded 277 and how many deformed fetuses may result?
The time is up. Risa, you may start your 2 minutes presentation.
I ask the second speaker of the negative side to please stand. Do you agree with me that human cloning is necessary in terms of medical issues?
No.
Do you agree that human cloning can help to improve the society?
No.
Are you 100% sure that cloning can help the scientists with their research?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that we can control cloning humans? Are you 100% sure that we can control cloning humans?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that genetics fully define who you are?
Pardon?
Are you 100% that genetics fully define who you are? Are you sure that all clones turn into monsters?
Yes.
Do you agree with me that Dolly's death doesn't involve cloning?
No.
That will be correct.
Jennifer McKinney, the third affirmative speaker, will now deliver his arguments on the benefits of cloning.
Good morning to my fellow classmates, to the excellencies, to our worthy opponents, and to our colleagues. Once again, good morning. Cloning and genetic modification are in existence because they promise for possible benefits. Aside from the benefits of cloning animals, there are many ways in which human cloning is expected to benefit mankind. Human cloning technology could be used to reverse heart attacks. Scientists believe that they will be able to treat heart attacks victims by cloning their healthy heart cells and injecting them into the areas of the heart that have been damaged. Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States and several other industrialized countries. Second, there has been a breakthrough with human stem cells. Embryonic stem cells will be grown to produce organs or tissues to repair or replace damaged ones. Skin for burn victims, brain cells for the brain damage, spinal cord cells for quadriplegics and paraplegics, hearts, lungs, livers, and kidneys to be produced. By combining this technology with human cloning technology, it will be possible to produce needed tissue for suffering people that will be free disease, diabetes, heart failure, degenerative joint disease, and other problems will be made curable if human cloning and its technology are not banned. Third, infertility. Infertile couples will have children, despite getting a fair amount of publicity in the news current. Treatments for infertility, in terms of percentages, are not very successful. Would many couples run out of time and money without successfully having children. Human cloning would make it possible for many more infertile couples to have children than ever before possible. Fourth, Down syndrome. Those women at high risk for Down syndrome will avoid that risk by cloning. Tay-Sachs disease, sex-linked genetic disorders to be prevented by using cloning to ensure the sex of a baby and possibly will be cured. Liver and kidney failure. We will be able to clone livers and kidneys for liver and kidney transplants. Leukemia. We will be able to clone the bone marrow for children and adults suffering from leukemia. This is expected to be one of the first benefits to come from cloning technology. Cancer. We will learn how to switch cells on and off through cloning and thus be able to cure cancer. Defective genes. Through human cloning, we scientists.
The third speaker of the negative side, may now start your cross-examination with the third speaker of the affirmative side.
I request the third speaker of the affirmative side to start. Do you think that cloned human will live normally?
Yes.
Do you think that cloning is unethical?
Yes.
Do you think that there will be lives wasted in cloning?
No.
Do you think that you clone organs is useful?
Yes.
Do you think that all diseases will be cured by cloning?
Yes.
Do you think that cloning is very safe?
Yes.
Do you think that cloning has no disadvantages?
Yes.
Do you think that all diseases that you mentioned earlier are cured by cloning?
Yes.
Do you think that it is successful in curing diseases?
Yes.
Yes.
Ayat Danza, the third speaker of the negative side, will now present his arguments on why cloning is not beneficial.
To our judges, my colleagues, timekeepers, and especially to my worthy opponents, good morning. Human cloning is not beneficial to all humans because of its disadvantages. On concerns about genetic diversity, the argument here is simple. Unless the genetic diversity of the human race dwindles so much that there are fewer than 1,000 genetically unique individuals, we have little cause for concern about the survival of the human race as a whole. Human cloning used on a very widespread basis would have disastrous effect on the human gene pool by reducing genetic diversity and our capacity to adapt new conditions. Like many cloned plants, human may face extinction if evolution is not allowed to follow its proper course of action. Human cloning endangers and exploits women. Cloning requires the harvesting of millions of eggs from women. The egg harvesting process involves a drug treatment and invasive procedure that endangers women by placing them at a higher risk of ovarian cancer, infertility, and other health hazards. Another thing, cloning violates the Nuremberg Code. This code condemned the atrocities of the Nazis and affirmed the ethical principles of the civilized world, including the principle that experiments should not be conducted on human beings when it is known beforehand that death will result. Next, there is a possibility of faster aging. Because an older cell is often being used to create a human clone, there is the possibility that this imprinted age could be placed on the growing embryo. This would create premature aging issues and potentially even premature death, all because of cloning process. Human cloning procedures would carry unacceptable risk to the clone. The procedure is far from perfected and many trials were run before Dolly was ever created. On the ethics of even trying, this, I think, is one of the biggest problems with creating the first human clone. We run the risk of producing a person who will suffer from hardships. They may experimented into medical problems, age unexpectedly quickly, or having trouble integrating into society if their origin is non-publicly, especially with the clones, are uncommon. It's also possible that failed attempts at cloning may produce poor, disabled, or short-lived humans who will undergo unnecessary suffering. Here are objections and fears about cloning. First, the fear that cloned humans will experience social hardships. Second, the fear that cloning will result in the manufacturing and marketing of human beings.
Jennifer, you may now cross-examine Cantona.
May I request the third speaker of the negative side, please stand. Are you sure that everyone has the opportunity to be cloned?
No.
Do you agree with me that all diseases can be cured if used with human cloning?
No.
Don't you agree with me that we can benefit from human cloning even if it's just a little?
No.
Do you really think that human cloning is not safe?
Yes.
Do you agree that human cloning can wipe out humans?
Yes.
Do you agree that cloning can cause aging on all the people you clone?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure that all cloning would result to premature aging?
Yes.
That would be all.